first mixer?
Oh my God, we're going back to. I didn't even have a mixer. I just had 2 reel-to-reel machines, and I would just take one reel-to-reel machine, record the stereo track on it, and then take those 2 channels and put it in the 3rd track, the 1 track of the other machine. So I actually had my first recordings were 3-channel recordings.
Was it the 80s and the 70s, or just?
Oh, this is the late 60s. 68, 69, yeah, 67, 68, somewhere in there, early 70s. The first real board I had was that old PV board.
I remember that. That's what we recorded.
That's exactly right.
Right. Whatever happened? Did you sell it?
Yeah, I all that stuff from that very first quote unquote little 8-channel reel-to-reel project studio got sold.
I just remembered punching in.
Oh,
how hard it was.
Yeah, and the editing was a nightmare.
Yeah.
You couldn't, and if you wanted to take a section of the song out, you actually had to take the tape out and do a vertical. I mean, not a vertical, but a diagonal slash, and then splice it back together and hope you got it just right.
Yeah.
You know, and you always left a little extra, that way you could work your way into the exact beat.
Right.
You know, and if you did it, if the slash was diagonal enough, you never heard the transition, but you had to be really good at it, and it had to be a very clean area, and you had to make sure that everything that you were using wasn't magnetized near a magnet or something like that. It was, yeah, the old tape days were nothing like it is today.
Right.
So, but your first CD, your Aunt Renee's demo, my first CD, the entire instrumental CD, was all done on that machine. I took it to an engineer that was running a digital studio at the time. He couldn't believe that it was all analog and only 8 tracks. So, obviously, I was okay at it.
Right.
You know. He said, "Where's the background noise? Where's the hiss?" I said, I used to just punch it out wherever I could.
It's still too slow. Just the tiniest bit faster.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 128. Try 128. Wrong beat. I'm trying to find something simple.
What was the first one you had though? Yeah, that's the one. Alright. I think that's right. That's where you're at before. Okay. Is this the one from the day I was born now? You have 3 pictures in there instead of just one.
Yeah, those were all from the same night, just different angles. You were born on in the afternoon, about memory serves, 1:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, and I didn't know that you had been born with hyaline membrane disease. They didn't come out to tell me anything. So when I finally went up and asked, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" They said, "Oh, well, he's you know, they've got him, blah 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 blah, and this and this and this." And I'm like, "What happened?" And they said, "Well, he was born with hyaline membrane disease, and he."
What the hell is that?
It's the lungs' inability to furnish enough oxygen to the bloodstream. So they said they said that you would be in an incubator. I guess it's an incubator, and they would be pumping oxygen into your, to help you to breathe better, and that lasted from Thursday afternoon until Sunday morning, and you were starting to do a little bit better. They started out like 75% oxygen, and they started to bring it down, and you were doing really good. And then your right lung collapsed on a Sunday morning. And fortunately, the nurse that was on duty that morning, I wish I could have found who she was an elderly woman that recognized it right away, and she saved your life is what she did, because she knew right away what had happened, and she called people in, and they drilled a little bit of a hole right here in you, and stuck a tube in you and pumped your lung up and kept it inflated, and then they took you to a children's hospital where they could better care for you in their ward.
And that's just because I was 2 months premature?
No, well, you were premature. They said 4 weeks to 6 weeks. They wanted to induce labor because your mom was so big that she literally couldn't. I mean, she literally couldn't move around. There was so much water. And
how come they couldn't know exactly how?
I don't know. There's all kinds. You hear all kinds of rumors about doctors wanting to induce labor so they could get out on the golf course, and it was easier for them to just induce rather than have people have natural births. And I mean, induce C-sections. I mean, not induce labor, but induce C-sections rather than natural births. And so they said, well, if he's not born by such and such a time, we're going to do a C-section, and they set the time and the date. And
35 years ago, though, they didn't.
Yeah.
That just seems.
I don't know. It just. Who knows? I mean, I guess if we wanted to have pursued it, we probably could have. We could have sued the doctor, sued the whatever, this and that and the other. But I think we were both just thankful that you were alive, and that after a week of Children's Hospital, once you got out of the danger zone, that was it. There was you never had to worry about it again. It was over. So once your lungs were able to to do what they were supposed to do, there was no chance of you having a reoccurrence or anything like that. So it was just it's a birth defect, or not? Yeah, just a birth deficiency, and they attributed it to early births and premature births. And so apparently you were premature far more than they thought you would be.
So you knew that night when you were playing that something was wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew you were in good hands, and I knew they were doing all the right things, and with the oxygen stuff. You were still, your breathing was labored. You could see your little lungs just, doing this and really working hard. But, you were under really close scrutiny 24/7, and you were in intensive care. And so I would leave the gig that night and go back to the hospital. And of course, visiting hours were way over, but they would let me come in. And your mom, they had your mom pretty drugged up. So she was out of it a lot of the times when I went down there at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I would go in and see you and ask the nurse how you're doing. Then I'd go back during the day and talk to your mom. And then that night I'd do a gig. Then I'd go back out there again. And then, because you're under contract, you got other people that are depending on you too. And so you do the best you can to accommodate all of them.
It is C, right?
Yeah.
Weird how you remember that 18 years later? Because the only fucking chord I knew was 18 years ago.
Bring it down a half a beat per minute.
I can't do that.
What is it?
Percentages of, so I'll do 194. That's 194% speed.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
It's just like a video.
That's fine.
you be alright? Just let it go. Can you move alright? Can you breathe? I mean, you take care of your cars like I've never known anybody.
But
even
believe it or
remote.
not, I'm not nearly. I don't have nearly the time that I used to spend on it now to spend on it. You know, I mean, this car.
I mean, I'm not
this
kidding,
car,
people. It is.
This car.
There's nothing.
But I'm the only one that rides in this thing. It's not. I don't have kids. I don't.
You think what you
What?
think this is normal the way your car looks. Like you think that this isn't.
Here's
Just
the
give me some reason because
here's the deal. I've always, when I was growing up, I was always taught pick up after yourself. My grandmother used to say, because she lived with us when I was a little kid, and she used to say, you know, I can tell everywhere you've been and in the order that you were there. She said, because in every room you leave a trace behind you. You leave something, and so from now on, guess what? You're going to go back and you're going to pick up if you got dishes dirty. You're going to wash them. You're going to dry them. You're going to put them away. And so after I got my ear twisted about 14 times, she finally convinced me that, you know, you learn to pick up after yourself. If the temperature is above 32, 34, 35 degrees, I've got a spray off car wash up at the top of the street. I can go up there, you know, let the engine get warm, let the interior get warm, go up there, hose it down, get it to the garage, and the water will freeze on the car from the time I leave the car wash to the time it gets to the garage. But once it's in the garage, the heat from the car will warm the car up enough that the water then becomes unfrozen. It's liquids, and you can wipe it down, even in 35-degree temperature. But you got to have a garage.
All right, but you also realize you know this.
Well,
You know
believe me,
that at 35 degrees you go, hey,
I can
go do
That
this.
doesn't necessarily I will, but I can do it at 35 degrees.
Nobody knows what you just said. Nobody has any idea.
Sure they do.
Nobody looks at the temperature and goes, ooh, you know what that means? This brings up our only argument. This is the stronger than before argument. The one where like we stopped talking to each other.
Really?
The reason I liked it this way is because I like that heavy build up and then boom, you go down into the verse.
Oh.
And don't you remember that argument?
No, I remember.
Nobody has songs like that. It never builds up and goes down. And I'm like, but that's what I want. No, it doesn't. I mean, that was our only argument. I remember calling Burgundy and being like, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna write a verse about him and then sing it during the fucking song, and that's what I did. That's awesome. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, well, we've grown.
Alright, you'll be alright. Just let it go. You believe the fight.
You know, I don't really have anything that I absolutely want to do or have to do before I die. I just. What's the name of the song?
Let it go.
I just want to have my mental faculties and be physically able to do the things that I do all the time. I've got all the tools I need to do the things that I want to do. And I've got the skills that I need to do the things that I want to do, but I would like to develop them further. And that would take time, and that would take not having to work full time and those kind of things. So I've got things to look forward to when I finally do slow down a little bit, whenever that is, and hopefully it's not going to be for another 5 or 10 years anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to work for another 10 years, to be honest with you. You know, I'd like to keep working. You know, so who knows? You know, Lana would like me to keep working till I die so she could retire early. But so I told her she shouldn't hold her breath on that one.